99% of the time when we do an in review, I hit up Cameron Kennedy, I hit up Carter Harrell, and I'm like, all right, we're doing this franchise, and we already know what that means. We know what we're going to get. We know what song we're using or like, mocking or whatever. This was one where it's like, what do we do? I don't know. Like, and it's funny because watching the movie, it actually has a banger fucking theme song, but like, it's not that identifiably 21 Jump Street. So I had the idea. What if we took the real Slim Shady and turned it into the Kind of Funny jingle? That happened. Carter fucking nailed it, banged that out in just a couple hours. I sent it over to Cameron Kennedy, and he's like, dude, I fucking got it. And he comes back with that. There was two versions he sent me. One was the one we're seeing, and one was just it with the music without all the sound effects and stuff. And he was like, yeah, I don't know if we want to do that. I'm like, yes, we're going with the fucking 21 Jump Street one. You fucking nailed it, you insane person. And he also gave me a little Easter egg. This is brought to you by Cameron Kennedy. Oh. The dolphin sound effect is a sound that is in all of Lord and Miller's movies. I didn't know that.
Interesting.
I didn't know that. So I'm going to keep my ears out next time. You know what I'm talking about? Anyway, this, of course, is Kind of Funny in Review. I am Tim Geddes, and I'm joined by the Nitro Rifle, Andy Cortez.
Hello. Great afternoon, everybody.
It's Christmas in January, Joey Noel.
Is it almost December?
Almost December. It's almost December. We'll get there one day. The producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Hello, Tim. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling energized. I'm feeling really good, and I am more excited than I've been in a very long time for In Review because we have the big dog, Kevin Coelho.
What's up, dude?
And he hasn't seen the movie that we're talking about today until now. The movie we are talking about is 21 Jump Street because this is 21 Jump Street in Review. Of course, you can find the show on youtube.com/kindoffunny or roosterteeth.com. You can also get it as a podcast. Just search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny in Review, and we'll be right there for you. If you wanted to get the show ad-free, if you wanted to watch it live as it's being recorded, and that's it, you got to go to patreon.com. There's no post show for this one. I was just going, patreon.com/kindoffunny is where you want to go if you want to be a Patreon producer, just like Molecule, James Davis Makes, and Pranksy. We appreciate you all so very, very much. Today, we're brought to you by Purple Mattress and Babbel, but I'll get to that later. Today, we're talking about 21 Jump Street. With a runtime of 1 hour and 49 minutes, it was released on March 16th, 2012.
Yeah.
A decade ago.
Yeah.
How is this movie a decade ago?
It's incredible.
It hurts.
I don't like the time moves. If we could stop, that'd be great.
Directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. This is their live action directorial debut. You probably know them from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, the Lego Movie, Into the Spider-Verse, and almost Star Wars Solo, but then they got taken off of that. Now, the music was done by Mark Allen Mothersbaugh, who I didn't really know, haven't really heard of in my memory at least.
Weird.
Did a little bit of digging because
what a fake fan.
Yeah, exactly. I'm kind of surprised, honestly, because I will say the score in this movie is fucking fantastic. It is like so much better than it has any right to be for what this movie is. I fucking love it. And it all makes sense because it was made by the man that was the lead singer of what band, Nick Scarpino?
Oh, I don't know.
Devo.
Oh, really?
The band behind Whip It.
That's incredible.
He is a fucking superstar composer, composing music for the 13-year run of the animated series Rugrats.
Yep.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's where I recognize the name the most. Not from Devo. It was always seeing that name in the credits. And as a kid thinking, what a weird name to like. That's just a name that's always stuck in my head, seeing it kind of animating in the ba ba boom 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 brrr. Like that's just always stuck in my head. Mark Mothersbaugh. I didn't even know he was in Devo until we talked about him on an interview probably several months ago, a year ago, maybe.
That in review was probably Thor Ragnarok.
Yep.
Because he did Thor Ragnarok, which makes a lot of sense. He also did a bunch of Wes Anderson movies, Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, The Royal Tenenbaums, and The Life Aquatic.
And Life Aquatic has a great soundtrack.
Amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Like this guy, he's up there. He's up there.
Watch your ass, Michael Giacchino. Watch your ass.
You better watch out. This guy's coming. He also did the score for the Get a Mac commercials from Apple.
Makes sense.
So like, hey, he's done
claim to fame. What would you? So out of all those accolades, Andy, you're introducing yourself to people and they go, what do you do? What's your first word out of your mouth? Do you say that I did Rugrats, or do you say I was the guy that did the score for the Get 'Em At commercials?
Oh, I would do the
Devo?
Rugrats thing. I think it's really cool that you are for somebody to be in Devo, such a widely known musical group, but to point out like, oh, I did the Rugrats theme song back in the day. I did all the music for Rugrats. And people to go, oh, that guy did all the music for Rugrats. They're like, yeah, also he's in fucking Devo, dude.
Yeah, because that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, you have to have, and Tim,
Story.
not to derail the podcast, but you can't tell people you were in Devo. Somebody else has to tell them on your behalf that you were in Devo.
Right.
Those are the
I
rules.
think it's a better follow up than an initial punch.
Yeah. How'd you get your start? Oh, I was in a band in the 80s.
Yeah, I love that. I love that, Nick.
Which one? Devo.
You've probably never heard of it. Yeah.
And then immediately you hear me from across the room go, oh, crack that whip. Make it all.
Oh, what a fucking
Like,
slap.
and
Just
then
like the
someone
rest.
goes like this. Why did we invite Nick to this party? He wasn't even invited here. We're playing Fortnite. How did he get on this server?
This movie also featured 21 licensed tracks, and I'm going to say that they all were
They're
used
great.
So
immaculately.
good.
Tim, when you heard the Slim Shady kick in for the first time, were you just like, this is the best movie ever made?
I mean, yeah, it set the tone for sure, and they did not let up. It had a budget of $42 million and a box office of $201 million. Some fun stats for you here. Jonah Hill lost over 40 pounds for this role
Dang.
because he was like, yo, I got to do all these stunts, and I'm next to Channing Tatum, so we got to figure this out.
You got to figure it out.
So yeah, good for him. Good for him. But before we get into all the other stuff, I want to start with Kevin Coelho being the first time watcher of this movie. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I think that like 10 years of everyone talking about it being like amazing. The bar was really hot, really high. But I gotta tell you, man, the chemistry between Jonah Hill and what's the other guy's name? Channing Tatum, so good. So good. Like they're watching the relationship grow and stuff. And it was a lot of fun and heartwarming. And it's like, I love these guys. I want to see them stay together forever. So like towards the end, it's like, oh no, sort it out, guys, sort it out. Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I think that there was a couple things where I'm like, I don't know,
problematic in some spots.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Like the teacher, Aaron
Aaron
and
from
like,
The Office, yeah.
because I was like, I hope the punchline for this is good, and then it's like there wasn't a punchline, and then there was.
I think they shot more with that and they scaled it back.
Yeah,
because you're talking about the
teacher.
The teacher, the chemistry teacher, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ellie,
What's her name?
Is that her name?
Yes,
Ellie
Ellie
Kemper.
Ellie Kemper.
Yeah.
That to me continues to be one of the funniest parts of this movie because of her, because she's so
yes,
fucking funny. She
she's
has that
great,
moment
yeah.
in the prom where she's like, "You have to go away, never leave me. Please get out of here. I love you." Like all that stuff.
It's very
and he's
good.
like, and Channing Tatum just perfectly like, I'm sorry, what? Like what? And like you can tell he's just kind of thrown off by it. It's
like,
so good.
I thought there'd be some like it was all being set up to like, you know, when like I don't know they get announced that they're adults, her like going for it or something.
Yeah.
And,
well, I mean, it's also kind of weird that like that to me
They're
is not
banging in the credits.
But but
I
like
think there
was
some
that
scenes where they banged and they took it out of it?
yeah? See, that's the thing. Like I think that like some like bad stuff happens there with that character that they like regretted.
Well, see, that to me was always funny because I'm like, well, they're both of age, right? Like Channing Tatum's like, I think he's supposed to be 25.
Yeah, but she doesn't
26 in
think
this.
he is.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
why
he's supposed to
the
be
conflict is hilarious.
25.
The weird one is when you start dialing back or peeling back the layers on Jonah Hill and Brie Larson,
and
Yeah,
that's
that's
one
he is
that's not good.
legitimately like 18 years old, and that's
Well-
very inappropriate.
Well, when she was first introduced, I was like, oh, she's a teacher too, because I feel like
She's a
like
student.
yeah, but she kind of looked like she could have been.
You thought she was like undercover maybe or something like that?
No. I just thought like when I'm talking about the first like 10 seconds that we were introduced to her, where I'm like,
no.
oh, she's gonna be a teacher too,
Yeah.
and then it was like, no, she's a student. I'm like, all right, let's see how they take this, and then that
Interesting.
last,
Her intro, I thought she looked so young,
She looks
like
so baby.
surprisingly young.
I don't know. Well, I mean, like 25 now seems young, Tim. All these kids,
That's
you
true.
know.
We're all
That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Nick, don't put us in your boat.
We're all on the same age.
Nick, all of us.
To a teenager,
So yeah,
we're
but
all
both
just
those
over the hill.
relationships and like the ending of that relationship, while not as problematic as a student fucking a teacher in a back room, still like that like kiss at the end of just being like, huh, all right, that's where they went with that. That's where they went with that. But yeah, overall it was very funny. I mean, it's just it was so hyped. I enjoyed it a lot, but like I was constantly being like, this is like so many people are talking about this movie for so long that I kind of kept being like, I want like bigger, harder jokes, and I think that was my own fault. So I'm curious.
Sorry,
Go ahead. No, I'm curious to see how I feel about number 2 because I don't feel like I heard people talk about it the same way they did with 1.
Two's got some great moments, but I think the thing that everyone loves about the original 21 Jump Street is, and I think I speak for the group when I say it has no right being like it has just absolutely zero reason to be as good as it is. When they announced 21 Jump Street starring Channing Tatum, and by the way, has anyone ever watched the original 21 Jump Street? Okay, so I back in the day I grew up watching that show. It starred Johnny Depp, which is why he's in this in a cameo. Holly Robinson, which is why she has a cameo in this. And the other guy, Dan DeLuise.
All the original cast members from 21 Jump Street have cameos in the film, except for Richard Grieco and Dustin Nguyen, but they appear in the second movie.
Wait, who's Holly? Who is
Holly
she in this
Robinson
movie?
was the one that gave him the car. She was like, "Don't go fucking around with this car," and then it cuts, and they're immediately trying to jump over the car. She was like, "Don't do stupid shit with this," and so. I grew up watching that, so when they announced they were doing this movie, I was like, no, you don't need to do another 21 Jump. You do not need to make a movie or reboot 21 Jump Street. It had its day. But the fact that they actually came out and made something that's very funny, very entertaining, and actually kind of a heartwarming, competent movie, I think was why everyone was so surprised and they recommend this. Like, if you peel back all of the humor, it actually is a good story about two people who have become friends because they're polar opposites and they meet each other. And then it also asks what I always find a fantastic question is like, what happens if you got another shot at high school, right? And that's always kind of a fun, interesting fantasy fulfillment moment for people who maybe didn't enjoy their high school career so much.
The times have changed too, and I feel like
the world's changed, man.
Well, that was what was so fun about that was like, and it's a very clever movie, and it's a very well structured movie, and the payoff at the end, you know, like I missed it the first few times I saw it, but when Channing Tatum starts talking about the covalent bonds and how they each have something that the other person needs that binds them together, and then Jonah Hill's like, "Oh, are we covalent bonds?" No, it's a fuck. We're not fucking atoms, dumbass. But that moment of like, oh, they have really solidified their friendship. And they're great, even though they're very, very opposite. I think it's heartwarming, and I think the movie just is very, very competent. And I think most of the jokes hit more often than not. And if they don't hit, it's just super fun watching Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill fuck around on screen. It's just so fun.
Is the original 21 Jump Street a comedy?
No.
Okay.
It was not.
Perfect. Just wondering. I had a great time with this movie. It's funny to think back to watching it for the first time because Channing Tatum was like the romantic, like maybe getting into action guy. And so when he was cast in this comedic role, I think everybody was like, what the fuck? Like the closest thing he had ever gotten to that was She's the Man, which is like weird and kooky, and he didn't have that big of a role in terms, like it was the Amanda Bynes movie. So going back and watching it was really fun. Between this and Superbad, like Jonah Hill is just so good. Like that era of Jonah Hill is so good, and like
and he wrote this.
He wrote this?
Jonah Hill wrote this movie.
Yeah, he and the other dude who also helped write. Oh gosh, I was just looking at his IMDb last night. The co-writer on this movie has also done some. He did Project X.
Oh, I've never seen that. Is that good?
I watched it like 3 weeks ago.
It's been on my Netflix.
Someone wrote that movie? I don't believe it.
Oh, there's a start. Everyone's got to start somewhere, you know?
Yeah. But I had a really great time with this. Like they have such good chemistry. This movie is wild because it's the biggest, like, holy shit, that person is in this. Like the cast, when you look at it now, is insane.
Yeah.
Like baby Dakota Johnson is baby in it. And she plays like such a throwaway character, but it's funny to see that now.
Let's roll down the cast list on this. You got Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum, Brie Larson in one of her first few roles, Dave Franco, Rob fucking Riggle,
He's so good.
I'm like, you got to put him in less this movie because he steals every single scene he's in. Everything he does in this, Andy, it's going to come as a huge shock. Makes me giggle so hard. There's a moment where he's sitting in the audience in the theater and he goes, Doug sucks! You fucking suck, Doug! And then he looks around like, who said that? I die every fucking time he's
I
on.
love
and-
when he takes snacks from the girl in front of him and like gives her a second look.
Yeah, and my favorite all-time line in this entire movie is when he looks at Channing Tatum and he goes, "What are you doing? I don't like that. Put your tongue back in your mouth." He just kicks his tongue back in his mouth. He's like, I don't like that. I don't like that.
But just the last thing is that I was really happy to rewatch this last night and find out that most of it did hold up, because Tim and I and Gia had tried to rewatch Pineapple Express over quarantine, and that did not hit the same way. And so I was like a little bit nervous that this was also going to succumb to some
Yeah.
of those issues. But I was happily surprised that for the most part, checks out.
Pineapple
Real-
Express was
real-
a lot. Like when you go back and watch that, you're like, it's a lot darker of a movie than I remember it being.
I
Like, it's
like
not.
it.
This movie is a lot more fun than that one.
Yeah.
Real quick, while we're in the IMDb, the character of Zach, one of the nerdy, I think, hacker, the actor's name in real life is Dax Flame.
That's awesome.
That's
Oh,
a
wow.
wild name.
Holy
Yeah.
shit.
What?
Yeah, I want to give.
Oh,
a
he
shout
was
out
in
to the rest-
Project X. That's where I knew him
That
from.
makes sense.
Ah,
I want to give a shout out to the rest of the cast here too. We've got, of course, Ice Cube coming in as the perfect
So
Captain
good.
Dixon.
Now,
Chris Parnell.
a fact I have there for
Yeah.
you, Nick, is that Jonah Hill wrote that character for Ice Cube. I
Fuck
was
yeah,
like,
he
it,
did.
it has
It's
to be Ice
perfect.
Cube.
oh.
And
Infiltrate the dealers, find the suppliers.
and
Find the supplier first.
he left a lot of his parts just open, and it was just mostly improv
He's
for
Yeah.
Ice Cube, and
He's
he
great.
fucking nailed it.
And then we also have just a banger of a couple scenes with Jake Johnson and one scene with Nick Offerman for no reason. He's
Which-
Jake Johnson's great. Nick Offerman was great.
great.
That the Nick Offerman scene, that role was supposed to be given to J.K. Simmons.
Oh.
that would've been
Due to scheduling conflicts, he couldn't do it.
That
He
would've
saw the
been
movie
great.
opening weekend and was like, "This is the most upset I've ever been for
Yeah.
not being a
Ah,
role."
he
Because
would've been
I
great.
want. He's like, I don't
Dang.
normally do comedy things. I really wish I was in this movie.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But also, Nick Offerman killed it.
Nick Offerman killed it. And to Kevin's earlier comment, the couple scenes with Jake Johnson where he's like, a kid literally died. And nobody, including me, are doing anything about it.
It's weird.
It's weird.
And
Joe.
shout out to Dave Franco.
Oh,
Dave Franco's
so
great.
good. Can we just do Dave Franco interview, because I want an excuse to rewatch Neighbors too.
Oh, that's a good franchise.
Never seen
It
it.
is.
Neighbors is great. Neighbors is why I'm always like
love
Zac
Neighbors.
Efron is a fantastic actor, and you all don't put him on high enough of a pedestal.
He's literally, I have a tattoo of Zac Efron.
Andy
He's holding on the
Cortez.
5'8 club with me.
God, this movie is. I was worried about it going into it, but this movie to me is one of those instant classics that will go down in the annals of history when it comes to just
Good use of that
awesome
word.
2000s comedies. This, along with y'all already mentioned Pineapple Express, being a little bit disappointed with that. That movie's like a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. This goes along with Step Brothers and movies of that sort of
Yeah.
style, where it's, or even Superbad, where it's friends writing roles for friends and just being really clever and funny. And I think the comedy still works extremely well. There are just so many little moments of brilliance with Channing Tatum's. Like, I think so many of the funny lines aren't even necessarily like bam punchline. It's just a little funny aside that a character might say that just make me laugh so much because of how they react. And Channing Tatum reminds me so much of a friend of mine, and it's just like it feels so familiar having like that douchey jock of character in the movie saying, no, these kids aren't cool. They're crusty and they're weird and need to be stopped. Like, he's just like, he's so offended by the fact that these are the cool kids now and his days are over. Like, I think this movie just holds up extremely well. And yeah, Lord and Miller just continue to show that they have got the stuff. They've got the stuff.
A couple weeks ago, when we saw the Into the Spider-Verse trailer, I said that Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite movie of all time, and I stand by that. But rewatching this, it is up there for me. I absolutely love this, and I can say without a shadow of a doubt, this is my favorite comedy movie of all time, and it's because of
Interesting.
everything you all said. But it's just, it has heart. It has such true heart. Nick,
Now, have you seen The Heat starring Sandy Bullock?
I
God,
have
fucking
not.
shit.
Do you
Melissa
just call her
McCarthy.
Sandy?
Yeah, I
Sandy
call her
Bullock?
Sandy, man.
I don't
No,
like
you
that.
don't.
I
You've never
really
called her
don't
that.
like that. No, but really, this movie to me
Budapest.
is kind of a perfect, perfect comedy because the leads are the most endearing characters we've ever seen. They're so fucking funny. Both of them are so well played, so well written. The improv's fantastic. Every scene they're in, every interaction they have with others is just so good. Kevin brought up the problematic bits. They're problematic and they're fucking weird. The kiss at the end is like, what the fuck did they do?
Why?
Definitely the thing that I'm kind of like, I don't like that. But everything else is so well done, so well made. Nick was talking about how well made a movie this is. Like, that is what takes this a step above. It's because this movie, the plot inherently is funny. Like, the sheer idea of they have to go undercover and they're staying at their parents' house is
I love
that
that.
alone is funny. But then what they
So
do with
good.
it, they're just so good at setting up situations that are going to be funny and then making sure they're as funny as humanly possible. Taking a step further from that, it's the support cast. Like, the fact that every single character we named makes us laugh. There's not a single character in this movie I'm like, I didn't like them. Every single
Even
person
the
brought their
parents
A
are
game.
super funny.
Parents are great.
They're great.
Mom
They're
is
great.
So
Oh,
good.
when they get mad at them and then start making them do chores.
Chores.
The pictures on the wall of the little cherub baby, like, just there's
Oh,
so
I was
many.
naked. I was naked when we took this.
Died here.
Andy, I saw you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention when
I
it
know
comes
it
to
was
the
naked.
humor, how well it's aged, and I think about another really funny movie that certainly hasn't aged as well. When we think of comedy being recycled and comedy bits and like the inception of the first time you heard that style of joke, where it's the are you singing TLC? No, I don't think that's what it is. Like, we've seen that bit done a million times now, and I feel like that was kind of like maybe the one of the first times we saw it in The Other Guys, where they're mentioning TLC, right? And that kind of comedy kind of goes on. But I also think about in Super Bad, or in the 40-Year-Old Virgin, you look like a blah blah blah. You look like a blah blah blah, right? And we get that great, like, you look you look like a you look like you died or whatever. You look like a Fred Savage as a kid or whatever. Like, all those stupid jokes are great. But then 40-Year-Old Virgin has the, you know how I know you're gay? Like,
Yeah.
those are definitely the jokes that just did not age well. I feel like this movie was made kind of like right at the right time where some of that problematic humor won't be there. And we can still laugh at times when Channing Tatum, being this dumb oaf, is like, no, I didn't punch him because he's gay. I
Right.
punched him, like, it's a stupid joke like that, just showing like
Well, it's very
that
self-aware.
it's
right?
a different era
yeah.
now. Yeah, it's a different
And-
era now.
Yeah.
It's a different time. Even in 2012, being like, no, man, you can't punch you punch because he's gay. That's homophobic, man. Like, I love that this
It's
movie
that
is kind of like right at
4-year
that
little
turning
gap.
point.
And-
Yeah,
and that-
it's
and
like
that's-
that
that's like-
perfect time.
And that's one of the strengths of the movie, right? Is that it actually takes all of those old stereotypes and is a commentary on them. And you
Yeah.
see that when they walk into school for the first time, and he's like, okay, those guys are jocks, those guys are goths. I don't know what the hell those guys
fuck
are.
they are.
What the fuck is happening here? And everyone, but then, like, and the cool kids are like eco-friendly, and like nobody, like, they park in the disabled spot, and he's like, you can't, like, all of that is so
thought
just
you were gonna-
clever, right?
And it's
it
10 years
gives-
ago. Like,
and
that is the most
yeah.
impressive thing, is that, like, that shit is so funny and be funny in a movie now, but like, it was 10 fucking years ago that they were making those jokes and delivering them so well. And on top of it being a funny movie, like, I just think the story and the characters are so well developed in this that there are plot twists that get you, that excite you. And like, I'll never forget the first time I saw this movie. I didn't even watch from the beginning. I was at a friend's house. I walked in the room, people were watching it. I just sat down, and it was the chase scene. And this is one of the best chase scenes in any movie ever. And I swore that was going to explode. And the way that they played off that joke, this movie's so good at the callbacks and setting up a joke to come back later. But in addition to jokes, they do that just with plot and with twist, in the sense that the guy's just like, if you guys are cops, then I'm a DEA agent.
Yeah.
And then later at the end, he is a DEA agent. Or like
Yeah.
things like the drugs kind of taste like Cool Ranch Doritos.
Yeah.
And then the dude, the coach, is like eating Cool Ranch Doritos the whole time.
Well,
It's
that's
like,
it. He even says that. He goes, I took a little bit of that chemistry and threw in some of my flavor. Pow! We got the drug, right?
and it's just like that type of shit. Like, we didn't need that in this movie,
No.
but it's what makes it legitimately great, not just a funny movie. And the biggest one for me is the Johnny Depp reveal. Johnny Depp was in this movie in multiple scenes, and we didn't know.
That
And
blew
he's
me away.
also undercover. And it being a reboot sequel type thing, oh my God, they fucking nailed it, because that is the best reveal ever. Being somebody who didn't watch the original series, it didn't fucking matter, because when Johnny Depp's revealed, you're like, excuse me? And then it's clear from the context of shit, you're like, oh my God, he's from the original show. It's just, they just nailed this to me in every single way. And I can't wait to watch 22 Jump Street next week, because I've only seen it once, and all I remember thinking was, I can't believe a sequel was as good as it was. So hopefully that stays up, but that's a conversation for another time. Before we get to the plot, though, let me tell you about our sponsors.
There are a ton of worthwhile goals to set for yourself this year, and personally, learning a new language with Babbel is at the top of my list. Babbel is the addictively fun, fast, and easy language learning app that has sold more than 10 million subscriptions. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Greg, and as you know, I'm in love with a French Canadian named Geneviève Saint-Onge. And Jen, of course, first language is French. She learned English later on, and I've been trying to learn French, but I keep falling off. I've got Babbel on my phone. I'm ready to do it in 2022. Other language learning apps use AI for their lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 100 language experts. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective. You can choose from 14 different languages like Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you improve your pronunciation and accent. I could probably use that for English. Right now, when you purchase a 3-month Babbel subscription, you'll get an additional 3 months for free. That's 6 months for the price of 3. Just go to Babbel.com and use the promo code KindaFunny, all one word. That's BABBEL.com, code KindaFunny. Babbel, language for life. When it comes to getting a good night's sleep, there's only one thing you need. A good mattress. Forget all those gimmicks like mattress toppers and weighted blankets. If your mattress is terrible, your sleep is going to be terrible. So get the only thing you truly need, a Purple mattress. Only Purple mattresses have the Gel Flex Grid. It's a super stretchy, ultra squishy material that adapts and flexes around pressure points and doesn't retain heat. How do I know? Well, I talked to a young man named Timothy Geddes, and Timothy swears by the Purple pillow. Then, on top of that, he used to have a roommate named Joey Noel who swore by her Purple mattress. That's right. Kind of funny sleeping all over this Purple stuff and loving every minute of it. Getting a great night's sleep starts with having a great mattress. Get a Purple mattress. Go to purple.com/kindafunny and use the code KindaFunny. For a limited time, you can get 10% off any order of $200 or more. That's purple.com/kindafunny, code KindaFunny for 10% off any order of $200 or more. That's purple.com/kindafunny, promo code KindaFunny. Terms apply.
And now that we're back, Andy,
I didn't. Okay, I'll just do it off the cuff. Nick's got the plot. He's not the cleverest fellow. I don't know, guys. I fucked it up. I don't.
Okay, so
We had
apparently
so much
I'm not
time.
the cleverest fellow. I'm not the cleverest fellow.
I always like to talk shit about you. Budapest.
Budapest.
Sandy Bullock.
Old friend Sandy Bullock. Let's kick it off, everyone. Let's talk about 21 Jump Street right now. A movie that has no right being as good as it is, but it was, and I'm very glad about that. And let's kick it off with what I can only assume is on Tim's top 10 favorite lists of all time. Final Fantasy XI, JK. It's the real Slim Shady, and Jonah Hill is dressed like Tim was, I imagine, in high school, college, and when he started at IGN before he became a man. Very much just in that Stan
Not
look,
wrong.
which is great. I know.
I will tell everybody that my baggy phase and my blonde hair phase were two different phases.
Yeah, you had way longer hair with the bleached tips. Yeah.
There was the boy band phase, and then there was the Slim Shady phase, but
Got it.
different phase.
Okay.
So.
He's still in his blonde era, you know?
Joe.
It's crazy. It's just
Oh, don't drink that Diet Coke. Don't do it like that, Joey. No.
Joe, you did it. You're perfect. We're all on your side right now. You've got the momentum. Go for the win. Schmidt, of course, we get a great scene here where they were actually in high school. Schmidt tries to ask Melody to prom, and Channing Tatum laughs at him. He says, "There's no other way to put it. You're a nerd, and she's fucking hot." And she shoots him a look like, "Yeah, he's right." And then Janko, of course, we get is not nothing's great on his side either. He's failing everything, all of his classes, and so he can't go to prom. And the teacher says, or the principal says, "You, my friend, have to pay the piper." And he goes, "I should pay who?"
Joey.
Nick, I need to know what you think about Channing Tatum's wig. at the
Oh, it's
beginning of this
terrible.
movie.
It's
Is it a
terrible.
wig? I don't know. Wigging out with Scarpino.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wiggin' Out with Scarpino, podcast within a podcast. Yeah, it's a terrible wig, Joey. But
They make like no attempt to make it good, and that's what I think is funny about it.
yes,
I mean, dude,
But
I love that because to me, the real Slim Shady was moment one. I knew I was going to love this. Moment two was seeing Channing Tatum looking like a 40-year-old man and the amount of times they make that joke. But from the get-go, when he's actually in high school, he looks older than he looks in the entire movie. Like, that's
Great.
fucking hilarious.
it's great.
But also, is there any better sort of stereotypical humor than putting an actor back in school and giving them braces? Like, it works every time.
And 15, man.
It's always going to make you laugh. They're always going to look silly. I think of like Mike Wazowski, like him having braces. It's just like if you put somebody that you've
All the
known for a
biggest
while,
stars.
Yeah,
the big stars, the biggest
Dude.
stars.
Josie
Oh, didn't Ben
Grossi
Stiller
from Never Been Kissed.
Yeah, Ben Stiller,
in
something about Mary.
Something about Mary. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always great whenever you put an actor with braces on back in like their high school days or whatever.
We cut to a scene outside, of course, where Schmidt and Janko are basically at their worst, right? They're one's flunking out of high school, and the other one just got his heart broken.
It's just
and
lame.
Channing Tatum kicks the trash can, and then Schmidt tries to kick it too and hurts his foot. And then we cut to 7 years later. Love it. We're in, we're out. That's all the setup we need for this. They just had a hard time in high school. Schmidt was a nerd. Janko was a jock, but it wasn't all belt.
Can I make it
flowers
any
and
more
roses.
obvious?
Yeah. 7 years later, Schmidt and Janko are reporting to their first day at the police academy, and I think we get a great line here where Channing Tatum looks over and says, "Not so Slim Shady, what's up?"
Another one of those classic moments. I hear that, I'm like, oh, Nick's gonna laugh.
it's so
This
funny.
is such Nick
It's
humor.
such an obvious joke, but it's so well done, and it's just Channing Tatum, like. He started his career. The first movie I remember seeing him in was Step Up. No, what was it? Step Up,
Yeah.
right? Where he was mostly cast because he was a great dancer. Of course, he's going to do much better projects than that. But he wasn't a great actor back then. Here, I think, is really where we talk about the short list of people who wanted to be action stars or more dramatic stars, but really are just, and it's because they were good looking and had good physiques. But let's be honest, they're comedic stars, right? You talk about John Hamm, you talk about John Cena, and I think Channing Tatum, this is the first time I remember seeing him going, "Oh, dude, you're hamming it up in these scenes. You're perfect in these."
That's
but
why
it's-
he'd be a
G.I.
terrible
Joe
Gambit.
movies.
He'd be a terrible Gambit.
Yeah, he doesn't need to be
It's
Gambit.
true.
He's a comedic actor through and through. He can do a
Let's-
couple dramatic things here and there, but I think he needs to stay promptly in this because this is where I love watching him.
Andy, when
Yeah,
the
no
world
more
said
Nicholas
that,
Sparks movies either. That'd be great.
when the world said that he was going to be Gambit, I was like, that's a mistake. That's a mistake.
And
I'm
I
glad
had
that
already
that
seen this
failed.
movie, Kevin, and I was like, he's an oaf. He's the best oaf around. Cast him as all the oafs from here on out. He's such a himbo.
Of course, this is where they start gelling as friends because Janko is really good at physical stuff and Schmidt is really good at academic stuff. And there's just a moment where he says that. He goes, "Wow, you're really good at this stuff." He goes, "Yeah." And then it cuts. He's like, "You're really good at this stuff." Yeah. He goes, "Do you want to be friends?" So they just become great friends. And that is
It
how
rules.
it works sometimes. You're just
Get
like,
ready
"Oh."
for a lifetime of being badass motherfuckers.
And then it just cuts to them as bike police near a lake. And they're mostly just
Right.
screwing with kids and just being completely inappropriate. Of course, then they spot a group of what are going to be the antagonists in this, the one percenters, ruthless gang of drug dealers. So they go over to try to bust them, and it just goes poorly. We get the line where we didn't know this at the time, but Johnny Depp says, "If these boys are cops, I'm a DEA agent." And of course, he is a DEA agent. And he says, and then we get a little moment where Channing Tatum talks about beating someone's dick off. And he's like, "I'll beat your dick off all day." I laughed at that. I continue to laugh at those
I
lines.
also laugh very hard.
Then they find actual drugs in the bike, which Jonah Hill's like, "Those are actual drugs," and so they try to get the guys, but a chase ensues. Channing Tatum Schmitz does not go well because he cannot pull the trigger, and this is the first of 3 times we're going to see him choke. That becomes a theme for him. He chokes when push comes to shove. But of course, Schmidt Janko is able to bowl over his guy and gets his man, but he forgets to read him the Miranda rights. It does not matter though; they still teabag him and then fire their guns into the air.
Dude, they
And
go,
it's hilarious.
Schmidt, we got one. And this is the first time we really get the theme kicking in. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you guys know I'm a sucker for themes. I just love that this movie uses this theme that scales so well. It has some 8-bit vibes sometimes. It goes super bombastic, or it can get kind of sad and somber. And like, let's sit in these moments with these characters. But this moment, it fucking hits, and you're just like, yeah, I fucking love these guys.
I love it. And I love it too because there's something so, and I think I speak for Andy when I say this, accessible about how they celebrate and how completely inappropriate it is that they're teabagging this guy as he's on the ground
Shooting guns.
and shooting guns. And I love they cut over to two families who are watching this, and then they just scatter as Jonah Hill starts firing his gun up in
Shooting
the
the
air, just
guns,
pumping
yeah.
it. And then of course we get
I love
the
that
banger.
he starts doing the Miranda rights and just can't get it, and he's just like,
can't
fuck
get
it.
God, just such a good again, this movie just constantly hits with the reoccurring jokes that work and they don't get tired. Like the Miranda rights thing continues to be great throughout the rest of the movie. I just love it.
But it's also a good setup, right? It's like the two things are like obviously is that the character arcs are Schmidt is constantly choking, and Janko just like is not smart enough or doesn't commit enough mental capabilities into like remembering things like the Miranda rights, right? He just doesn't do it, but they both end up having those nice payoffs toward the end where he shoots Rob Riggle's dick off for
Yep.
no reason.
So that's
Look into
one thing
that.
I want to note that like has changed in the world. Like his thing of not being able to like do his job or like commit is that he doesn't feel comfortable shooting people
Yeah,
as a cop.
it's
you know?
pretty great. Well, I think it goes more than that, right? It's metaphorically he chokes. Like he choked when he
Yeah.
asked the girl to the prom. He choked.
Right,
her.
right.
That's been holding him back the entire time. And together they figure it out. But this next scene has the line that I think might be my favorite line in this entire thing. They're sitting across the table from Nick Offerman, who says, tell me the Miranda rights right now. It's like 5 declamatory statements followed by a question, like 57 words completely. Tell me. And Channing Tatum starts it off. He says, well, obviously it starts off with, you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to remain an attorney. And Nick Offerman goes, did you say you have the right to remain an attorney? And Jonah Hill goes, you do have the right to remain an attorney if you want to. It's the funniest.
You can be an attorney if you want.
If you want to. Like, he's not wrong.
That was the first laugh of the movie where like I had to pause the movie because
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there's something, it just gets me. Man.
Do you say you have a right to be an attorney? You do have a right to be an attorney if you want to.
And that's the humor that like I feel like all of us just fuck with on a day-to-day basis anyway. Like that's the type of stuff that we're saying, that's the type of stuff that makes us laugh. So like it kind of hits on every level that I personally love just when it comes to dialogue.
It's
I
the Paul
just
Rimothy humor.
God,
No,
it
no.
unfortunately is.
No, stop. It's much higher quality than that.
No, it's like
Much
when we're all
higher.
Like
saying-
boiled
we all-
down, it's that same stuff where it's
It's
just like communication and not listening.
It's us always
Yeah.
saying stuff incorrectly. Like it's I don't know. They just nail it. They nail it.
They
I love the you guys might have already talked about the scene, but I just went to the bathroom. But with Jonah Hill, where he has his like cuts and scratches, and he's like, it hurts because the dirt gets all mushed into it.
Then of course we get a little biting commentary here from Nick Offerman about reboot culture, and I love it. He's like, they're dredging up this old tired program because everyone's has a complete and total lack of creativity. You guys have to report to 37 Jump Street. No, wait, that
that's
doesn't
not
sound
right.
right.
Yeah, it's
And of
so
course, they go to 21 Jump Street, which is, and they're both in full uniform as they head into the Aroma of Christ Church. And who should they meet the first time? Captain Dickerson, played by the venerable Ice Cube, who is just great throughout this entire movie. And I have to imagine shot all his scenes in like 3 days because I don't think we ever see him outside of the church. We also get introduced to the rest of the team. So we don't really do too much, which is unfortunate, but they have some fucking banger of a lines. He tells them that they're going undercover in a high school because there's some Justin Bieber, Miley Cyrus looking motherfuckers.
Like, it's so fucking funny because that's a perfect example of it's on the nose and it isn't funny, except Ice Cube saying.
But Ice
so
Cube,
now
yeah,
it's extra funny.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's so fucking good. And you were saying the other members of the team, like that's Dakota Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dakota Johnson and yeah, that was one. Yeah,
Killer. She fucking nails every single line that she delivers. I think she's so fucking funny. And like she's a perfect example of she should have been a weak link. Like that type of character should have been a whatever, they're just here to like kind of progress stuff. No, every character in this movie is fucking funny in their own way. A couple fun stats for you. You guys know some of this stuff, but on December 10th, 2014, it was revealed that Sony was planning a crossover between Men in Black and Jump Street. The news was leaked after Sony's system was hacked and then confirmed by the directors of the film during an interview about it. In March 2016, James Boblin signed on as director, but obviously nothing's happened for that yet. And simultaneously in 2015, a female-centered Jump Street film was announced to be in development. Tiffany Haddish was cast as the main star with Zendaya and Awkwafina in negotiations to be
That would've been
alongside
great.
her. It was
Get
going to be
behind that.
called Jump Street Now for Her Pleasure.
that would have been
a
the
great
fact. I
name.
mean, that's such a great. The fact that they could actually just plug random actors who look young into a 21 Jump Street franchise, I think is a great idea. I was never really behind the Men in Black. I was like, how the hell are you going to make that work? There's just two completely different genres. But they could absolutely make more of these movies. I'd be okay with it. But
And Dakota Johnson was going to be in that as well.
Oh, that makes
Sorry,
sense.
sorry.
Well,
That's why I brought it there. And also, sorry, the last thing about that is throughout the film, as the two main characters return to the chapel, they encounter two female officers who tout their own exploits, including busting a prostitution ring and busting a chop shop out of a high school auto shop. Both of these are plots from season 1 of Jump Street.
Ah, that makes sense. So it was Dakota Johnson, and if I'm not mistaken, the other actress' name is Rai Rai. That's how they say her name. Her character's name is Junior, but I think her name is Rai Rai. And she is fucking hilarious in this. She only has like 3 lines, but she's like, while you two were both thumb blasting you assholes.
We were finger popping each other's assholes.
Finger popping each other's assholes.
So good.
That's the one. And then Jody Hill's like, we weren't finger popping each other's assholes.
It's his imitation that just makes it even better.
It's so good. Anyway, back to the captain. He tells them all to embrace their stereotypes. He tells them and then he's like, the rule number 1, don't get expelled. Rule number 2, do not have sexual sex with students or teachers, which they break spoilers. They break all these rules. And then he shows Schmidt and Janko a YouTube video of a kid doing a new drug called HFS. Which
Young
is
Neil from Scott Pilgrim.
Yes.
Oh, right.
And I love this part because he's like, wait a minute. He's like, wait, where are you seeing this? He goes, it's on YouTube. He goes, they put this on the internet for everyone to see. And Ice Cube just goes, they're teenagers. They're really stupid. Makes sense. And then we see the amazing 4 faces of this drug. And it's fucking great. This cameo this kid has is so good. My favorite part is when he's on his stool and he just hits the symbol. Like, bang. And then, of course, it's sad because the kid OD'd. He's like, this kid's awesome. He goes, was awesome. He's OD'd on this. That's why we're sending you guys in. And then there's a little fun line, or a good line here where he says, as you can see, this kid is white, which means people actually give a shit. Jonah Hill's embarrassed by that. He's like, I just want, they have that little commentary. And then he says, listen, here are the stakes for the movie. Once the drug breaks containment from Sagan High, it'll spread to all the high schools. It'll be too late. Captain Dickerson enrolls them in high school according to their stereotypes. Of course, Schmidt, it says here, you were a virgin in high school. And Jonah Hill goes, it says that? He goes, no, I just assumed that due to your many years in the honor roll and your membership in the juggling squad. And he goes, it was actually the juggling society. And then he gives them their new identities as Bragg and Doug McQuaid. They're to be brothers, and they're going to infiltrate the dealers and find the suppliers. And Channing Tatum says, what if we just find the suppliers first? Do we still need to infiltrate the dealers? And he goes, infiltrate the dealers, find the suppliers. So Schmidt takes a moment later, because he has to return to high school. He's got a lot of anxiety about this, to pray to Korean Jesus, because he's really freaked out about the gang going back to high school because it was really hard the first time. And then Ice Cube comes out after Channing Tatum lies at it, and he goes, hey, stop fucking with Korean Jesus. He doesn't care about you. God, it's so ridiculous. And Captain orders them to Schmidt's parents' house for the duration of the assignment because they're playing brothers. And when they walk in, the decor in this house is so incredible. And he says, I look like Fred Savage from the Wonder Years, but completely naked. And she's like, you weren't naked. He's like, I was. He's like, I remember being naked. You know how I know I was naked? I remember being naked. I had to talk to my therapist about that. Schmidt and Janko, of course, prepare for school the next day, and Schmidt confides that they don't really get. He's like, are we going to be okay? We didn't really get along in high school. And Janko's sure some of their best buds now. And the next day, they try to practice the Miranda rights. Schmidt, 2 straps. And Janko makes a big deal of it. He's like, you can't two strap. He's like, you got a one strap. He's like, if I could no strap, I would do it. And of course, he's like, listen, I'm going to tell you the 3 keys of coolness in high school. Number 1, don't try hard at anything. Number 2, make fun of people who do try hard. Number 3, be handsome. Number 4, if anyone steps you on the first day of school, you punch them in the face. And number 5, drive a kick-ass car. So
If anyone steps you.
yeah, it's like prison rules. So they head to the police impound where where we get the cameo from Holly Robinson here. She's a great little cameo, and they pick up a dope ass Camaro. And immediately she's like, "Don't mess around in this car." And they immediately start misusing it by trying to jump over the hood of the car as it's coming at them, which is completely stupid, and I love it.
The note that I put there is him getting hit by the car made me laugh out loud, and it's not the first time I've laughed out loud in this movie.
That's great.
It's so good.
But also
my
goes
favorite.
Yeah,
sorry,
go
my
ahead.
favorite part about this is them. They're just like, we're just gonna cast you as brothers. There's no other way for you to do this investigation other than to be brothers. And the fact that people are just like, yeah, they're brothers. Like, obviously, people bring it up and stuff, but it's
well, there's a moment we'll get
the
to in a little
commitment
bit.
to it
Yeah.
just makes me laugh so hard. It's like, wait, what? You guys are, this is
but
the
it's-
best thing we got.
Well, we'll get to the setup in a hot second here, but yeah, that's very true. So they go to school and they park in the disabled spot, but
I do want to really quick before we get to that next sequence, just like them brushing their teeth and him reading the Miranda rights once again and being like, "You still don't remember?" And him going, "Well, they usually cut away. The camera usually cuts away in the TV shows before you can finish it." Like, it's little small lines like that aren't meant to be these gigantic laughs, but they're just so clever and stupid.
Do we know how much of this movie is just improv stuff?
So from what I was reading, there was actually a lot of interviews about that, and it sounds like most of it was not improv. Ice Cube was improv for a lot of it, but most of it was them sticking to the script. And Jonah Hill and
Which
that
is
dude
just
writing
testament,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. But a fun thing about the brothers that is so fucking stupid, but hey, they're committing to it. Their last name is McQuaid. In the original 21 Jump Street, Hanson and Penhall would frequently go undercover as the McQuaid brothers. That was kind of their go-to. So
that's incredible. Incredible. Of course, when they get out of school, though, nothing is what they remembered. Everyone is two-strapping it, and there's a bunch of people that they don't recognize what clique they fit into. And we get introduced to Brie Larson and Dave Franco. Franco's squad is kind of steps to them because they're eco-friendly, and they don't like his car because it's a gas guzzler. And he's like, "What is going on here?" And then one of their friends, who's Trey's like, "Can you guys be quiet? I'm trying to study." And then Jacob calls him a nerd. The guy steps to him, so he just punches him in the face, and that's where we get the exchange of what Andy talked about before about the kid being gay. And he's like, "I didn't punch him because he's gay. I punched him, and it turns out he is gay." And it's just a complete and total like cock up on Janko's side here. He's completely misreading these situations and fucking everything up.
But Dave Franco's delivery of "the world's changed," like, it's just so fucking good.
He's always like, "Man, you don't care about the environment? That's messed up." So funny. And he's also like, we got. He's like, our shit runs on not ethanol, biodiesel, dog. We try to bike it when we can. It's just so.
Yeah, it's so good.
And just the fact that he's saying it and he's deadpan with it, and Channing Tatum's reaction of just being like genuinely confounded. Like, I don't understand how everything could have changed so radically in just 7 years is perfect. That's when they go to the principal's office, and we get Jake Johnson with one of his 2 scenes here where he talks about, he was like, "If this happens again, I got to expel you guys." And we get a little bit more setup about the kid that died. He's like, "Nobody, including me, is doing anything about it. It's weird." And this is where they switch the identities by accident. This is the only
I love
kind of
this.
ridiculous moment.
No,
in this
I
movie
think
where
this
I'm like,
is brilliant because this adds now a sudden layer of like neither of them are in their element.
yes, they're both fish out of waters. But I do want to say logically, listen, man, the principal of my school couldn't have picked me out of a lineup. You could have just swapped the dossiers and just swapped back to where you were supposed to be. But they decided to run with it anyway, which
I think it's so funny.
Movie.
What I was saying earlier about like the plot of this movie being so fucking rad, like them having to move in together at the parents' house is like step one for me, where I'm like, this is hilarious. But then when they switch identities, it's like, this movie could do no wrong. Like that, I already thought they could have not switched identities and it would have been fucking funny, because like we already saw what that looks like, them having to deal with the new era of high school. But adding this extra layer, I think just like it just keeps ratcheting it up.
Well, it's inspired, but it's also a commentary on the times, right? Where Jonah Hill talks about it later. I think it's maybe like a few scenes from now when they're walking out of the high school, and he's like comic books are cool, and like studying is in, and he's like, if this is the way it would have been when I was in high school, I would have been one of the cool kids. And it's an interesting role reversal, and it's fun to watch these people navigate this new world. So they go to class instead. Schmidt goes to drama class and strikes up a conversation with Brie Larson, whose character's name is Molly. She points him to a sticker on the chair with a phone number where he can get drugs. But before he can split, he's forced into auditioning for Peter, and then he play Peter Pan. Over in the chemistry lab, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt is really into Channing Tatum. And man, I just find
It's
everything
weird.
she does there. I don't think it's weird. I think it's hilarious.
I
don't
mean,
think
it's
not inappropriate because you know the character.
Yeah,
is
but then
25 years old.
but you then have to remember that she has no idea. So she's just losing her shit over this
so funny.
this eight I guess in her mind he's 20, right? Because he was held
Well,
back 2
the
years.
thing is, he got held back 2 years. So she.
Oh
she
wait, but no,
theoretically-
that would be the other brother because they flipped the. Yeah,
funny.
so he's
You're
just
right. It would've been
18.
Doug, you know?
Yeah, like he's just that. Yeah, it's no good. That's weird.
So inappropriate, but she's so funny. I love the part where he's like, I can go take a shit. And she's like, oh, cool. Okay, cool.
She's just a fucking delight, man. Like
She is an
again,
absolute delight. Yeah.
Yeah, like I love her in every single thing I've seen her in.
Remember when she got like canceled earlier in the year last year?
Did she? What'd she do?
Yeah. Didn't she go to a debutante ball or something like that?
Yeah, she was at like some like
And apologized for going to like fucking.
yeah, it was weird. Really weird.
I mean, didn't what's his face? Ryan Reynolds get married in like a
on a plantation.
plantation themed
Yeah.
Oh, I
house.
thought that was Chris
Yeah.
Pratt.
Easy assumption to make.
Anyway, moving on with the plot, Janko and Schmidt head over to Yearbook where they meet the big baddie in this, who is Dave Franco, and he gives them drugs, but he's like, you got to do them here first, so I know you're not narcs. And they're like, well, we don't really do drugs. This he's like, you're either gonna do them here or not, and so they do them, and he bottoms up. And man, this next 5 to 10 minutes of this movie is fucking gold.
It's too fucking good. Like you could take this scene out of this movie, and I still think it's a perfect movie.
Great
And
movie.
that the next 10 minutes are also a perfect movie. Like
And
this 10 minutes shouldn't be in this movie. Give this 10 minutes to a movie that needs it.
It starts off with them fingering each other's throats to try to get each other to throw up.
Physical humor in this movie is next level, and this scene is just perfect.
It's so funny, and he's like, "What do you do?" Because I don't know, I've never done this before. And the old man janitor that walks by just looks at them as priceless. And then, of course, they get caught by Rob Riggles, and this is the first scene we get with him as they start the phase 4, which is like or phase 3, which is tripping balls. And this is where he's like, they're looking at him, and he's like a melting ice cream cone, and Jonah Hill sticks his tongue out and he goes, I don't like that. Put your tongue back in your mouth. And stuffs it back in. And then he looks at Channing Tatum who's doing the tongue roll thing. He goes, actually, that's pretty great. That's pretty great.
Yeah. God. Fucking Channing Tatum. I love that they set up the rules in the YouTube video of the different phases, and I love how they use it here, and then I love how they bring it back with Brie Larson at the end.
Well,
Like, it's just so fucking good.
But like I thought what was amazing is that like in the YouTube video, wasn't there 4 stages? And then in
Or
real
and then
life,
his sleepiness is the
in real life, there's a stage 5, and I was like, what? And then they knocks out. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, Rob Riggles confuses Jonah Hill because they have swapped, and so he's like, "Cool, well, I won't tell anyone about this, but you have to help me win the track meet later," which happens very, very quickly. So he goes over there, and it just goes very, very, very poorly. It's a relay race, and he ends up just taking the baton and hurling it. He's like, "Don't throw the baton!"
But he uses the baton to knock other people's batons out to somehow disqualify them, I assume.
Of course, Dave Franco and the team are watching this, and later they give him props for sabotaging the track meet because organized sports are very fascist. And Dakota Johnson and her partner accuse them as they come back in. They've done their first arrest, which is great. And she goes, "Yeah, well, you guys were standing around finger popping each other's assholes. We made a bus over that one." He goes, "We weren't finger popping each other's assholes. We're working our magic." And I think this is the scene maybe where they put the board together with all the threads. And
Yeah, the giant board.
he's like, "What the fuck is
yeah,
this?"
he doesn't care.
in that scene really quickly back with Rob Riggle, I just loved the y'all on drugs right now, and they're just like they look super stoned. He's like, all right, cool. He's just like he just reminds you of so many like awful coaches and teachers that I went to school with.
But there's also a meta-ness to that, right? Because
Yeah.
he wouldn't care if they're on drugs. He's the one supplying them drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he knows they're on drugs probably, but he doesn't give a shit because he's making money off of it, which is kind of funny.
And also, I want to shout out the Pop Quiznos is just another one of those perfect, funny sets of words together. Like the amount they use it is just like, you killed it.
It's perfect. We also set up somewhere in here about covalent bonds. I think that's later, but that'll come back thematically in the third act. Schmidt realizes the tables have turned and everything that was nerdy is cool now in high school and he might actually be popular. Quote, we just need to do something wildly irresponsible so we can get in with the cool kids. Schmidt, of course, will get in with the cool kids. He tells Janko to get in with the nerds and see what's going on in there because he's kind of low-key excited that he actually gets to be popular for once. Later that night, Schmidt calls Molly and she's surprised that he called instead of texting, which is hilarious now because even
So
kids wouldn't
funny.
even text now. Now they would just DM each other, or I don't even know how kids talk. Maybe they just send their carrier pigeons now. They've gone old school. But this scene probably doesn't hit for you guys too much. But oh my god!
Oh no,
it's
this
for
scene
me.
hit so hard for me,
The
Nick.
second mom gets on the phone, threw me back to every fucking time
Yep.
I called anyone in junior high and high school. My mom just felt that the phone was happening and would just come in to fuck with me every single
Yep.
time. And it would end up with me hearing, like, covering the phone and screaming and hearing my voice come through the other receiver that my mom had, just begging her to hang the phone up.
Mom, just hang on the phone.
Just hang up the phone. And then her immediately going from like embarrassed to just wildly angry at me for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
This was really great. And then, of course, my brother would do exactly what Channing Tatum does here. He would walk in and smell the fact that I'm on the phone with a girl and just start dry humping my shoulder and fucking with me and just beating the shit out of me until I got off the
So
phone.
good. It's great.
It's so great. Of course, he invites her and Eric to the party that they're having that weekend. And then the next day, get a great scene.
I
with
love
nice-
how emotionless Channing Tatum was
Yeah.
in that sequence. Also,
comes-
just so weird. Like he was just like so deadpan, like humping him, just punching him in the dick. Like it's just so good.
The next day, the captain's eating a sandwich, and he's like, "There's rumors around the Twitter sphere about you two throwing a party." And he's like, "If that was true," and he has this great, very, very, very elaborate metaphor where he's like, "I would find you guys in jail wearing snorkels, and me shitting down those snorkels." And
Jesus.
Jonah Hill goes, "That's extremely vivid."
Thank you.
It's extremely vivid. Oh, and then, man, I gotta tell you, this next scene, I mean, another banger where they prep for the party, and he goes, "Wait,
I love it.
how are we gonna buy alcohol?" And then they just start laughing at each other because they're 25 years old, and they burst out in slow motion with two kegs. And then he
And
goes,
then,
"Wait, how are we gonna get drugs?" And they start laughing at each other. And we might get my other favorite line in this whole movie, where he goes, "All right, what do we got?" He goes, "I got a pound of Coke." And he says, "We're trying to show them a good time, not ruin their fucking lives." So they get some weed and they throw the party. And Janko, of course, has invited the nerds to the party so that he can hack into Eric's phone. Eric and Molly show up. Janko helps lift Eric's phone so the nerds can clone it, but they're kind of too drunk to do that because it's the first time they've ever had alcohol. Eric tries to leave early, but Scott and some of the rivals from Kennedy High, fuckers from Kennedy, you know what I mean, Andy, show up and a fight breaks out. Janko, of course, beats the shit out of everyone he comes in contact with, but Schmidt immediately gets his ass kicked and says, fight's over, until he has to finally man up and he grabs his mom's vase and smashes it over Scott's head, knocking him out. And everyone is very, very happy about that. The nerds use the opportunity to replace Eric's phone, but Schmidt, of course, looks over and everyone goes, because he's been stabbed in the shoulder. And he's
It's awesome.
That's awesome. Of course, at this point, Schmidt's parents are returning because his mom forgot her phone, so they break up the party. And then Eric recruits later that night as they run away. Eric recruits Schmidt, which is hilarious that they're running away from their own party. Because like they got to go back. It's the mom that broke it up. It's not like it's someone else's party, but Eric recruits Schmidt to help sell drugs, and they bro out right in front of Janko, whose heart's kind of broken now because he's realizing he's losing his best friend. Schmidt's mom the next day is mad because somebody drew a dick and balls on Fred Savage's face. And I think Janko was like, I think it's not. I don't think it's a dick and balls. I think it's just a plane that's throwing up on Fred Savage. She goes, "You don't think I know a fucking dick and balls?" I see it. Oh God, it's good. Let's see. Meanwhile, Schmidt and okay, so Janko tells Schmidt about the phone trick, and Schmidt dismisses it. He starts selling drugs and getting credit from the captain as they're bringing in all the money from it, while Janko gets in touch with his nerd side. Meanwhile, Schmidt and Molly get closer. Schmidt gets noticed at a Payless Shoes and knocks down the old lady that is his mom's friend. This scene is so fucked up.
This is so unbelievable.
Nah, but like also like I got a bunch of friends that like my mom's friends that would definitely not understand when I'm like, drop it.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
You gotta drop it.
I want to go back just a little bit because you didn't talk about the Peter Pan I've Got a Crow audition.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I'm sorry. He comes in
'Cause-
and nails it.
That is so funny, and I didn't expect it. And I've seen this movie before, and I still didn't expect it. But Jonah Hill just fucking belting it out and walking around the room is just so fucking funny to me. That's great. The
Chris
Bakugan,
Parnell
you
is
dealing
fantastic.
drugs?
Which part?
The Bakugan, you dealing drugs? With the
No.
fucking playing with the Bakugan, like that's fucking so damn good. And then when he gets stabbed, when Channing Tatum's like, dude, fight normal.
He's like swatting at each other. God, it was so funny.
I love Chris Parnell also in that role. I think he's Chris Parnell always delivers
cast
in
insane.
whatever role he's gonna play, and he just crushes it in this high school theater teacher role. He's fantastic.
His line is so ridiculous, and you can tell it's such a Chris Parnell line. You could tell they either wrote it for him or they just let him say it. Where he's like, "I was doing cocaine with Willie Nelson's horse."
Well, you look like you've got a little Peter in you. Like it's so stupid. It's so stupid.
That was the line that made me write down the note. Is this better than Step Brothers? And then later, there's a moment I'm like, yes, it's better than Step Brothers.
Oh,
Step
that's
Brothers is
a-
fun, but this movie is like it sleeps and bounds better.
Really?
Oh yeah, I watched Step Brothers maybe 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago over the break, and it's funny, but it's not. This is just like a mile a minute funny, and everyone is just so good. I mean, to be fair, Rob Riggle, every bit as good in Step Brothers as he is in this movie. Might be better in
Yeah.
Step Brothers. Who knows?
Step Brothers. is
Well, then you get
incredible.
Adam Scott and Step. Maybe I'll just
Adam
watch
Scott is great.
Step Brothers this weekend.
Adam
The
Scott's
sweet
good.
child of mine moment, man. It's fucking-
Yeah, Catherine Hahn too. Oh,
Catherine Hahn is fantastic. You know what? You're bringing me around. You're bringing me around. Killer. I love her in that movie. Let's see. Schmidt stands Janko up at school and heads to Eric's parents' house to party with them. Notably, he brings Taco Bell, very pro maneuver. Janko uses the phone hack and overhears Schmidt and Molly talking about prom, and he's like, "Oh, Schmidt's going to choke again," but this time he doesn't choke. He musters up the courage and asks her out, and she says yes. Janko has a
Because
moment.
that is the actual sound of choking when he's,
Yeah, he's like,
actually
that is-
choking.
But then, to Janko's credit, and I love this part because they are friends. He's the second he asks him and she says yes, he gets like a wash of pride over him. And he goes, "Good job, Schmidt! Like, good job!"
Yeah.
Right? Like he's proud for his friend. But then he overhears Schmidt telling everyone that Janko is adopted and kind of like Rain Man, except he's really shitty at math, which is just the fucking
What?
meanest.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
Horrible. The next day, Dakota
Wait,
Johnson. Yeah.
Nick, and another like movie reference that I missed that I just wanted to briefly bring up is when Ice Cube is like, "Hey, if you guys get expelled, you're done. Like we're kicking you off, and we're kicking you off the force, and nobody knows you're in here." Like the was it Serpico, right? Where it was like,
Maybe, yeah.
yeah,
Like, we're so
where
undercover, nobody knows. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Except for it's like a high school thing where it's like,
Yeah. Totally,
yeah,
totally no
consequences
reason for
are
it.
yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
exactly,
consequences.
yeah,
It's not like they're gonna be put in jail and people, no, in like in Russia, no one's gonna know.
right.
But let's see. Dakota Johnson comes in and tells them the drugs have spread to other high schools, and the captain reads them the riot act. It's the night of the play, and Molly, of course, is very excited, and Schmidt is 100% in as well. And she says, "Look, you're the only guy I can really trust. Just driving the knife in further." Meanwhile, Janko gives an oral presentation for potassium nitrate in chem class, but he spots Eric and the boys absconding with the piñata that he overheard them talking about. So he rushes over to the drama department to grab Doug and try to chase after Eric, but their car has a boot on it because they keep parking in the disabled parking spot, which they're not supposed to. So they have to steal the driver's ed car. And shout out to the guy that plays the driver's ed teacher because he's like, whatever, who cares?
Perfectly
Like,
played his role. That's all he needed to do, and he nailed it.
And this was another moment for me though, where it's like, okay, cool. Them living with the parents, that's one thing. Them switching roles, that's another thing. Enter the chase scene. How can we make this chase scene funnier? They're in the driver's ed car where both people can control the shit.
Brilliant.
Come on, y'all.
Stroke of brilliance.
So
What a
fucking
great
good.
device.
And like the amount of dialogue in this that made me actually laugh out loud. There was a fucking Keebler elf driving. Like they're just so good. It looks like ZZ Top is related to Hank Hill. Like
The one that made me laugh so much was it looks like a fucking walrus. That one got me so good, man.
Of course, the tensions are mounting between these two friends because for obvious reasons, and so they end up banging into the car. The chase ensues. We get all of the moments of the things not exploding that are supposed to explode. All the great creative ways they take out some of the bikers. But of course, the last biker is like. Jenko goes look in the glove compartment, try to find a gun. There's not gonna be a fucking gun in the glove compartment. We're in a pink bug, and of course there is a gun in the glove compartment, but he cannot shoot yet again, and he chokes. And Channing Tatum has to shoot for him, which is a big deal. So they rush back to school because Molly is now very angry with him because the play has started. They've had to sub in the new guy. Let's see. They keep stealing cars. That's another thing too. So they knock the first guy out. And the second car they steal is just a very good-looking woman. And Channing Tatum's like, "Damn, you are fine as hell. Like someone's gonna pick you up. You'll be fine. You'll be okay." And she's kind of like, she's like flirting with him. I just love that they keep the joke that he's so good-looking that even though he's stealing someone's car, she's still with him. Then they rush back. And he's like, and Janko stops him. He's like, "Look at yourself, man. You're in too deep. I found a college application on your desk the other day." And he's so like, "I don't know how long this is gonna last." He goes, Eric's going to Berkeley. I could have a real shot at being a doctor or something.
It's so funny, but just also so sad. Where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, he just wants he was born
He's so much better.
just a few years too early.
Too early.
I wrote down, "You're in too deep. I found a college application in your desk" is the single funniest line I have ever heard.
So funny. And then, of course, Schmidt fires back. Says, "At least I know my Miranda rights, you idiot." He rushes onto stage, interrupts the play, and hooks himself up to the wires, embarrassing Molly to death. Then Janko runs on and tackles him midair. And this is fucking great because it'd be funny in and of itself. But the fact that we keep cutting back to Rob Riggle in the audience, who's heckling them the entire time, is just so good.
Did anybody here picture anybody we know as the Rob Riggle in any
Greg Miller.
scenario?
Greg Miller,
Okay,
100%.
that's
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
Greg
not-
Miller. Oh, that's interesting. No, I
that's
pictured
not the
actually-
first one that came to mind.
I actually pictured someone else.
I would think
Yeah.
Greg Miller. I would think
Yeah.
all, just
I
always
feel like
takes the
all of
opportunity to
us-
heckle people.
I
I'm
feel
with
like all
Kev
of
on
us who
this.
are picturing somebody are picturing the same person, maybe.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'm with Andy as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys think Snowbike Mike or who?
Yeah.
I'm genuinely
Nah, not
confused
Snowbike
as to
Mike.
who-
Not Snowbike Mike for
someone
sure.
else.
No.
Maybe Snowbike Mike is the one that the guy is trying to pin the yelling comments on. That sounds about
Got
right.
it. Got it. Okay.
Mm.
Mhm. Well, we'll just have to leave that.
And also Rob
In
Riggle
this-
stealing snacks from the person in front of him.
in this scene, I really, one of the things that I enjoyed most about it is they kept also cutting back to the stage crew, like being like, "Okay, pull him," to get him out of the way every time he was being attacked. And it was just like, there's no reason that they would be doing that other than they were like, "Oh, it's an opportunity to do our jobs." And I love
Beautiful
it.
chaos.
We get a lot of actually biting back and forth as they're fighting here. Where he says, "I was a loser for 4 years. You couldn't handle it for 5 minutes." And of course, Channing Tatum's like, "I'm not dumb. I'm smart." And then the principal comes in and expels them both, which is really sad. Captain Dickerson is not pleased. He fires them. Schmidt, of course, tries to call Molly, but she won't pick up. So Janko has to pack his bags because it's all done. And he says, "You know what's crazy to me? I actually thought we were brothers. I would have taken a bullet for you." But then Eric pulls up and interrupts and tells them to roll with. Come with him. He's freaking out, of course, because apparently there were cops yesterday and the drop went bag. And he goes, "I don't want to go to jail. You know what happens to guys like me in jail? It rhymes with grape." And he gives them guns for protection. And it's because they think he's going to shoot him at first, but then he gives them the guns. And he's a lot of things made me wonder about you guys. Your taste in music, the fact that you look like a 40-year-old man. But after the shit that went down at the play, there's no way you guys could be cops. And he asks them, of course, to back
A funny
up.
thing about that is in real life, he's only like 2 or 3 years, something like that, older
Younger.
than, younger than him.
Yeah, they're not that far. which is great. But Dave Franco looks like a baby compared to Channing Tatum, who has the
Yeah.
muscle mass of a 40-year-old. Take it from me, of a 30-year-old man. After 40, your muscle mass starts going downhill. Trust me. He tells them he needs backup for the big deal that's going down at prom. And then they go, time to get our jobs back. Let's get ready for prom. They suit up, armed to the teeth in beautiful white tuxedos, as well as all the shotguns and all the accoutrement. But Schmidt's mom intervenes and tells them, if you're living in my house, you got to do your chores first. So the music kicks back in, and it's epic as they're mowing the lawn together in their suits. What a great-
Dude, I love this.
In their Texas is so good.
I love a suit up scene. I love music behind it. This was perfect for me. And the fucking joke of Channing Tatum struggling to put on the tie, and it's a clip on. I was like, fuck this thing.
Love it. But it ends up being a touching moment, right? This is where they start to rectify their relationship because he goes, let me help you with that. And then he goes, hey, your shotgun's hanging too low. It's going to come out of your house. So he takes a shotgun out. And then Schmidt
So many
actually
weapons.
just kind of goes, hey, Janko, will you go to prom with me? And he goes, heck yeah, man, I'll go to prom with you. And he goes, are we really going to go take down a whole drug operation by ourselves? But of course, Janko has another idea. He's going to recruit the nerds to come help them. And they also recruit some of the prostitutes from the station along the way. Why not? And they arrive in a limo per their original thought process. As they get out, white doves fly around them as well. And they walk through prom.
No,
and,
they don't. It's not just white doves fly. Channing Tatum is holding a box, shaking it as he's walking out to get the two birds that haven't left to actually fly out. It's so well done.
Yeah, so funny. It's so funny. Of course, we get another quick scene here with Ellie Kemper where she sees him and she's like, Doug, what are you doing here? You have
This
to
one's
go.
so
Please
good.
don't leave me ever.
He
And
slaps him.
slaps him. God, it's funny. And Channing
Get
Tatum,
out of me. I'm going to throw up.
and all Channing Tatum has to do is exactly what he does do, is stand there and not laugh. That's all he's got to do. And she takes care of the rest. It's a perfect moment. We catch up with Brie
She's
Larson,
great,
super
man.
stoned on HFS because she's having a bad time. Schmidt tries to warn her, but she's too high, so he comes clean. He says, I'm a cop. There's some bad shit going down. You got to get out of here. But Eric interrupts them to take them up to the penthouse where they can meet the supplier, who turns out to be none other than Mr. Walters, Rob Riggles, who just took a bunch of that chemistry nerd shit and threw it together with
I
some
don't
of his
buy it.
flavor, and bam, he wouldn't be able to do it. But it's fun. It's a fun, dumb movie. Meanwhile, the nerds record the whole conversation down in the bathroom for evidence. The 1%ers show up to make a deal, and they recognize Schmidt. Then Molly comes knocking on the door and calls them narcs, and all hell breaks loose. And
Hold
everyone
on.
pulls out guns. Yeah.
They recognize him. He's like, oh, yeah, you might recognize me because I sang a commercial. It's like, did you sing it? Hand in hand.
And Channing Tatum starts singing with him.
Yeah.
So good. Everyone pulls out guns, says, you guys are cops. I thought we were friends. Eric has a great line here. He goes, you guys are cops? I thought we were friends. You brought us Taco Bell. And Jonah Hill goes, honestly, that was a sincere gesture. Oh, man. Molly busts in and Mr. Walters takes her hostage, but she falls asleep in her arms per the fifth phase of the drug. Schmidt and Janko drop the guns until DB and Doug step in and turn the tables, revealing that they have been DE agents all along. Enter the cameo from Johnny Depp and Peter DeLuise, who were the original cast members for 21 Jump Street.
So a fun thing with the Johnny Depp character. So Johnny Depp's character, Tom Hansen, eats in every scene where he appears. Hansen ate often in the original show, sometimes several times during each episode, and he did so often in scenes vital to the plot. It became kind of a thing. So eagle-eyed 21 Jump Street fans watching this for the first time could have been like, huh, this guy might be him. I just love that they did that. That's fucking
I feel
cool.
like so that was revealed to me just because like it's been 10 years that it's out, and so I knew that, and I knew that the coach was the supplier, but like when you hear him say earlier, "I'm a DE agent," it's so clear that it's his voice.
Not if you're not looking.
I mean, but that's the thing.
Remember
When the first time or when I watched it, like I didn't know he was in that crowd, right? But as soon as I heard it doesn't matter anyways. I wish I had not gotten that spoiled for me. I wish that was a surprise, but I should have waited 10 years.
I saw this movie in theaters, and I was blown away when it was Johnny Depp. I had no idea it was him. But the other guy, I was like, I recognized Peter DeLuise because I was like, I think that guy was in the original 21 Jump Street, and I remember thinking, oh, that's cool. They put him in the gang as as a thing. I don't know if he was in the original one or because I think at one point
I'm
Johnny
sure he
Depp was
was.
the main character, and then he
There's-
left because he got really big, and I think Richard Grieco came in as him, but I think Peter DeLuise stayed the whole time.
On the poster, there's like 3 people, maybe 4.
The
Yeah, I
whole
think it
time
might
I'm
be
thinking this dude has not worked since that show.
Yeah. Well, I know I just can't remember if he was part of the original cast or subbed in for Johnny Depp, but I think Richard Grieco subbed in for Johnny Depp when Johnny Depp got fucking mega huge because he kept doing all the Tim Burton movies. And got big. Anyway, doesn't matter. Great scene here. They immediately get shot in the throat, and everyone starts shooting at each other. Johnny Depp apologizes to Doug for sometimes being a jerk during the whole undercover thing, and he says, "The only approval I ever needed was my best friend." And of course, Jonah Hill sees that and realizes
The whole time Jonah Hill listening in as if it's a realistic situation at all. In the middle of a gunfight for 2 friends to be talking about how they actually really love each other as friends the whole time, and Jonah Hill's like watching like, oh wow, there's something to learn from this. And it's like there's bullets flying everywhere. It's so
They've also both
unrealistic.
been shot like 7 times.
incredible.
Mr. Walters and Eric leave with Brie Larson and the money, and Schmidt and Janko. Some of the 1%ers follow them, and Schmidt and Janko jump after them in slow motion and start shooting people. But Schmidt falls, and instead of pulling the trigger, he throws a gun at one of the guys. I guess, and then Janko comes in and shoots him straight in the heart. And as they're running down the hall, he goes, "Man, that was crazy! You killed a guy." And Janko immediately throws up on Schmidt's arm.
The first time I saw that, I fucking had to pause the movie for a good couple of minutes because I was like just in pain from laughter. That vomit just came out of nowhere, and it was so well done.
So funny. They rush through prom while that great song, was it Friends Forever? That song plays. We see
Vitamin C.
Graduation.
Yeah, graduation. That's what it is. Man, it's so bad. And then out back, of course, Mr. Wall. Everyone he jumps in limos, and a limo chase happens between them, the 1%ers, and Schmidt in their own limo. There's also a random high school girl in the limo with them who just does not understand what's going on. And Channing Tatum's like, "You got to stop." So they end up throwing her out of the limo. And then Jenko gets a great idea. He goes, "Hey, you still got those shotgun shells? Pop Quiznos." And he uses what he learned in what he calls app chemistry about covalent bonds.
I
to
love
make
app
bonds.
chemistry.
I love it too. He's like, "I learned it in app chemistry." He says, "Quote, they both need what the other has that makes them stick together." And of course, that's what he's really talking about. Or at least we know he's talking about their relationship together. Jenko throws the Molotov into the 1%ers limo, and it explodes and then crashes into a gas tank and explodes further. And he says, "Where'd you learn that?" He goes, "App chemistry, bitch." And then Walters crashes his limo, and they have a standoff with Molly as hostage. Janko, of course, is out of bullets, and when he makes a move real fast, Walters pulls the trigger, and Janko jumps in front of Schmidt, taking a bullet for his friend in his, of course, bulletproof vest. And Janko whispers to Schmidt as he looks up at him and says, "You got this." And he runs, and then Schmidt runs through all the times that he's choked before, and then looks at Rob Riggle and says, "You peaked in high school, motherfucker," and then shoots him right in the dick. And together,
By
Schmidt and
accident.
Janko read Mr. Walters his Miranda rights, and it's
So
great.
this Miranda rights moment, like it's up there for me with the Into the Spider-Verse, What's Up Danger, Taking the Leap. It is so hype.
It's
I
That's
love
up-
that the
that's-
theme
it's-
kicks in.
yeah.
I love the two of them reading the Miranda rights together. It is the culmination of this entire movie, and I swear to God, it makes me tear up. It fucking gets me, and it's not tearing up from sadness; it's from fucking hype. Like it is so great. I love these guys.
It is
Yeah.
it is hot fuzz shooting up into the sky. Like it is so exciting.
We have a great line here where, of course, he says, Channing Tatum's like super excited because you're a goddamn rock star. You shot him in the dick. Who does that? And then Schmidt apologizes for calling Janko all those names. He says, "You are smart and you're sweet and you're sincere and I cherish you." And they high five while Rob Riggles tries to pick his own
That's my
separate
dick!
up with his
Lift
mouth.
my dick up.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous. Eric,
The
of course,
slow mo jumping high five is just like perfect.
Eric gets carted off to prison. Schmidt apologizes to Molly for lying and betraying her trust, and she says, "Thanks for saving my life, asshole." And they kiss. The boys return to Jump Street triumphant and give Captain Dickerson a hug. He's, of course, made a framed arrest report for them to celebrate the moment, and then he gives them a new assignment. Since you two cowboys love drinking booze, smoking weed with kids, and fucking anything with a big ass and jeans with low self-esteem, I'm gonna send you to a place where all that shit is allowed. And Channing Tatum goes, "Disney? I love Disney World." And he goes, "No, you two sons of bitches are going to college." The
And
end.
then the credit sequence.
Great credit sequence.
It's just so fucking, it's such a celebration of what we just witnessed. Like they knew that they made us all laugh as hard as they did. And they're like, let's just have fun with this shit. I love how chaotic it all is. Woo!
I love that there's also scenes that you can tell, like we were talking about before, of like with him and Ellie Kemper and a bunch of other things that they shot that they didn't put in the movie. but there is some stuff in there that I'm like, there's got to be a director's cut somewhere that's floating around. It's like 3 hours long with all the completely inappropriate shit in it.
The Lord Miller cut.
I love it.
Andy Cortez, please hit me with something I like to call haiku in review.
7 syllables in the middle. Nope, it's not playing. It's up. 7 syllables in the middle. You'll need 5 for the first and last line. If you're not poetic, no need to fret it. Haikus don't need to rhyme. Haiku in review. Haiku in review.
You can go to patreon.com/KindaFunny to write your review in haiku form, just like Andrew Feisner did, the only one that wrote in for this one. And he simply says, 44444 444444444. Fuck you, science.
That's great. I like that a lot.
So damn good.
I wish I had written down what he says in there, but it was too fast. Because he's just saying a bunch of gibberish, but it's all like pop culture references. So fucking funny.
Yeah, he does the Back to the Future.
Yeah. Flux capacitor.
Flux
Carry the
capacitor
force.
to the motor. It's so good.
Yeah. Andy, now please hit me with a little thing I like to call ragu bagu.
Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Right Guys Talk Bad Guys here for 21 Jump Street in review. Right now, number 1 on the list, Mr. Walters and Eric, who may or may not be going to Berkeley next year.
One of the best villains of all time, Mr. Walters.
He's so good. He's not.
Yeah.
He's going to be hard to beat.
Yeah,
Although I
it's
will
going to be
say
really
that-
hard to beat. I don't
I will
remember
say
the
that-
villain in 2.
I do. And
I do too.
She's fucking hilarious.
Spoilers, come on, Nick.
I'm not going to spoil it, but one of the sub villains is one of my all time favorite. She's hilarious. I
Hell
can't wait to
yeah.
get to it.
I'm
I
excited
can't
for
wait.
Kevin to watch it. Kevin, don't get your hopes up too high. But
It's not as good. But
It's a good sequel.
yeah,
I remember in the
it's
same way that this
fun.
was surprising, where it's like we had very low expectations. You have even lower expectations for a sequel. You're like, there's no way they can recapture
for a way
the
to
magic.
follow up a movie like this for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I still walked away being like, huh, wow. They
Wow.
they made a good movie. Good for them.
Yeah.
I
And of course,
definitely up the 2, where I thought some things that happened in the second one happened in the first, and I was waiting for them to happen, and then they absolutely did not. I was like, oh.
Joey, I thought the end credits for 2 were here.
Ooh.
have you seen the end credits of 2, Kevin? Do you know what we're
Yeah, I
talking
have.
about?
I have.
Ah, no!
Oh.
Boo! If you at home have not seen them yet, don't watch them. Wait till you watch the movie, because it is a trip. Until then, though, thank you all for hanging out with us. Let us know in the comments below what you think about 21 Jump Street. And I just want to whet your appetite a little bit. You know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do that next
Excellent.
week, because I am not
Excellent.
100% confirmed on things. But I love you all. Goodbye.